for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is approval of the December 8th regular meeting. Approved. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next thing is a public hearing to hear the public opinion on the application for a variance to allow a home-based hair salon at 7722 Chester Road, map 47J, Group H, parcel 1.00, Darlene Navarro. If I mess up anybody's name, please forgive me. Navarro. Is there anybody from the public that has anything to say about the hair salon? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Next thing is discuss and take action on an application for a variance to allow a home-based hair salon at 7722 Chester Road, map 47J, Group H, parcel 1.00, Darlene Navarro, owner. Ms. Navarro, you here? Would you like to step up to the podium, please? And tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
I would like to put in a salon in my home, and I'm needing extra income for my family. And with me being able to do this, it would cut down on me having to pay booth rental each week, and it would substantially increase my income.
By I think he was asked to show proof of adequate parking. Did you do a drawing of any type, sort?
I did a drawing of what the salon looks like, but I was never told anything to provide a drawing about parking.
Okay, well, you got to have some kind of a plan for your parking, for your adequate parking.
Uh-huh.
The space needs to be drawn out, showing the footage
Okay.
and what size you have and so
Okay.
forth. Because just saying adequate parking
Okay.
don't really tell us nothing.
Well, I know we can fit 4 cars back there.
4 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Can you have a draw, you don't have to have nobody draw it, but if you can draw it out yourself and put the footage from one end to the other
Okay.
and so forth. Y'all have anything?
I've got a
Move
few
for
things.
approval.
Oh, I have a few things. Just for your edification, Ms. Navarro, under major home occupations, what Ricky's referring to is that a parking plan shall be presented with each request for conditional use permit presented hereunder, and the plan shall demonstrate that adequate off-street parking can be provided on the site to accommodate the additional needs generated by the home occupation, which you could possibly do. We just need to see proof that you can actually accommodate the parking.
Okay, so,
So I'll make an approval with
to be able to bring that in.
adequate drawings submitted with
Okay.
your parking to codes.
I have a few other things. In regards to participants, Ms. Navarro, how many people will be working at the place?
Just myself.
Just yourself? What are your hours of operation?
It would be from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m.,
And how many days a week?
Tuesday through Saturday. Saturday would be 9 to 2.
You had on your application 350 square feet, I believe, a maximum of 350 square feet.
Right, I do
space.
have the exact amount.
You do?
It's 260 square feet.
Does that exceed 25% of the floor area of the dwelling?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
Are you intending to sell products there?
As of right now, no.
There are some restrictions, just so you know.
Okay.
Restriction of wholesale and resale or retail sales, which actually direct sales of products are produced off premises are not permitted.
Okay.
And you may correct me if I'm wrong here, City Attorney, would apply in this case to hair products and mousse and so on, manufactured off-site? Am I interpreting this correctly in that they would be prohibited to be sold on-site?
Normally, it would be, I think in a situation with a hair salon that you probably could sell things that's made off-site, but you couldn't manufacture stuff on-site that would produce noxious odors and all this type of stuff, and that's what that's directed at.
Okay, good.
I think
Thanks.
if she brought it on there in a package, opened the package and sold it, she'd be all right.
Okay.
She couldn't add the ingredients once they get there.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate that.
You'll only have one client at a time,
Yes.
correct?
I'm only one person.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if you'd have two there at a time working on two different ones, or if you'd
No.
only have one person at a time with one car parking in the room.
One at a time.
Okay.
Do you plan on having any kind of signage or lighting or advertising of any sort?
No, I know the state requires a small sign to be visible from the outside, but I think I can even have that be on the back of the house, I believe.
That would be something that'd have to go through John as far as signage
As
approval.
far as the sign ordinance,
Yeah.
and if the board, and I'm not suggesting you do this, but if you see fit to approve it, you could make a contingent upon her submitting the parking plan. I would like to throw out one other thing while I'm talking, just for her benefit. If the board sees fit to grant a variance, that variance is good for 2 years and is renewable by the codes director as long as it continues to meet the status of comply with the regulations. She wouldn't have to come back in here unless she had a problem or unless the board decided her to come back in. Now, if you are there and you're not meeting and you're not complying with the ordinances, the board could decide her to come back in and show cause why they shouldn't terminate the variance before the 2 years is up.
Directed to you, City Attorney, there's, in our major home occupation section, under residential appearance and character, it says, "In no way shall the appearance of the structure be altered or the occupation within the residence be conducted in a manner that would cause the premises to differ from its residential character, either by use of color, materials, construction, lights, signs, or the emission of noise or vibration." Is that a conflict with the signage requirements she referenced earlier? Because I interpret this as we can't have signage.
Right, and the state requires her to have one to stay open.
Okay.
So I think if she put it on the back, I don't think the state would have a problem with it, and nobody could see it, so.
Okay.
I think that would probably, they do have one that they have allowed in the past that just puts, that they put in the yard, and John has seen these, that says like, very small sign that says salon or something, they've done that, but I like the one in the back better because that probably will satisfy the state and will satisfy what our requirement is also.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
I have a question. What if the state says it has to be in the front? Would there be a certain size?
Yes, there is, and John has got that in the sign ordinance. It's a small sign. They've had them for others.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what she'd have to do then is come back and ask for a variance because the state's gonna shut me down if you don't.
Okay.
And then we'd have a basis to waive that.
So the sign variance well, the sign is potential variance then?
Yes, sir, you could. If the state requires that to stay open, then we'd have to at least hear her request for the sign, and it'd have to meet the qualifications in the sign ordinance.
Has the state told you one way or the other what their expectations are?
Yes, they said we do have to have a sign that they can see.
Did they
And
say
we
what
have
that means?
several other businesses, home-based businesses that are salons, that the same requirement is, there.
I think in some of
So-
those instances, they had made the sign
It is, it's a
very
little
small
wood.
and hung on the mailbox, down below
Right.
the mailbox.
And the state's okay with that, I suppose?
Yes.
Okay, good, okay.
And it has to meet the criteria of the sign as to color and size and material and this type of stuff. You can't, I'm not saying you would do that, but you can't go out and hang a cardboard sign below your mailbox.
Okay.
The other part, obviously, you can't put a barber pole out in the yard. I mean, that would change the stuff. You couldn't, come up with some color for just the area that's going to be used as the business so that it's distinguished from the house. It has to look like a residence.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Okay. We'll make a motion that the variance be approved as long as the parking plan is submitted to John and is approved by John. And then in the 2-year period that go back in front of John for the approval. And that the signage is approved by John and the state and everything, that it's all up to codes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I made the motion,
Yeah,
so
I'll
you second.
second, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Thank you very much.
Just for her benefit, she can pick up her permit from codes as soon as she complies with the restrictions that you placed on it.
Correct. Okay. Next thing is a public hearing to hear the public opinion on the application for a variance to allow a storage building to be installed near to the property line than the required 5 feet at 7906 Pinecrest Lane. Map 43C, Group A, Parcel 34.00, William and Roxanne. Okay, I had a problem with that last time, didn't I? Do we have any comments from the public? Or you with him? I mean, you're not with him? You're one of the neighbors? Okay, just 1 second.
I'm one of the neighbors.
Yes, sir.
I say greetings to the members of the City of Fairview, Codes Department and Board. My name is Stephen T. Woodall. I and my wife, Jane H. Woodall, are the property owners at 7826 Pinecrest Court. We are the direct westerly adjacent homeowners to the property owned by William and Roxanne Dolatowski, who are seeking variance to allow a storage building to be installed. We personally have no exception to their placement of the storage building. To note, there is a 15-foot public utility and drainage easement between our property and that of Mr. Dolatowski. Within the past 4 years, Mr. Dolatowski has assisted us and essentially the city of Fairview in keeping the easement flowing without obstructions and free of debris. Even in light of this, the area on either side of the easement easily floods when we have heavy and extended rains, and the ground remains for days following. The area on Mr. Dolatowski's northwestern corner would therefore be unsuitable for placing a storage building due to this fact. And I actually have a signed letter by my wife and I, and I also have a copy of the plat and the areas in reference on that.
Okay.
Did you reference the northwest corner?
I actually have the plat of the record, photocopy of it. This is our letter. This is a part of the copy of the plat of record. This is an enlarged one, and that's the actual line here, and north is going that way. And this is Dice Lampley. No, north is going this way, excuse me. North is going this way, and that would be that corner down there, which would be this corner right here.
For my reference, where's Mr. Dolatowski?
Mr. Dolatowski is 34.
Okay.
And
This
you're-
is, I'm 18.
And where is the storage building wanting to be placed?
I haven't spoken with Mr. Dolatowski since the last hearing.
Okay, back there, but you're
But my-
saying
my
that
ass- yeah, my
the flooding
assumption-
is in between you two, so.
Yeah, it would be impervious to put it down here because that area floods. And because it floods, it tends to really soften the soil and ground in there. And so any building or structure that would be put in there would be subject to that.
Okay.
I would also make note of record that Mr. Dolatowski has a lot of old, greater than 50-year growth trees on his property, which really helps prevent erosion in the subdivision and the adjacent properties around. And I'll just make that note.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir. This is the location, right?
Okay, and this is the man that had the problem with it last time. and
Yes,
he's not
ma'am.
here.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Welch, and I would like to thank you in advance for allowing me to share my remarks with you. I live at 7910 Pinecrest Lane, so my property runs right next to where the request for the easement is located. The location of the easement is in the far back corner of my lot. That area of my yard is currently overgrown with small maples and dogwoods, and the location of the propane tank prevents us from really doing anything with that portion of the yard. As a rule, the Dolotowski's yard is very well maintained. Bill and Roxanne have poured countless hours and dollars into beds, plants, trees, etc., that serve to improve the aesthetic value of the outside of their home. This consequently increases the value of the homes in Pinecrest as a neighborhood. Not only do they work tirelessly to improve their own yard, but they consistently do things that benefit other yards in the neighborhood as well. For example, at his own expense, Mr. Dolotowski dug out a large trench that ended a flooding issue for several properties immediately surrounding his, as Mr. Woodall was explaining to y'all. He has also donated his time and hard labor to helping others in the neighborhood who, for one reason or another, were unable to complete needed yard work. Because of all of these things, I am certain that whatever structure the Dolotowskis build in their backyard will serve to enhance the overall beauty and value of the entire Pinecrest community. Finally, the property line between my yard and the Dolotowskis has been shared between the neighbors prior to either of us living in these homes. A zigzag fence has been in place since 2005 that actually crosses the property line on both sides, but this has never presented any sort of issue between the neighbors. It is my hope that you will grant the easement allowing the Dolotowskis to build a shed without damage to their in-ground sprinkler system or any of the existing mature trees. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Hello. My husband couldn't be here tonight, but he wrote a letter for you guys to read about his opinion on the matter.
What's your name? Kimberly George.
Are you at 7221?
Says, I, Keith George, living at 7221 Dice Lamper Road, Fairview, Tennessee, oppose any storage building to be built near my property line than 5 feet per the setback rule.
The variance, sir, the variance that we have is 5 feet away from their property line.
We'll hear from you in just a minute, sir. This. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Next thing is discuss and or take action on the application for variance to allow a storage building to be installed nearer to the property line than the required 5 feet at 7906 Pinecrest Lane, map 43C, Group A, parcel 34.00, William and Roxy Dewalski, owners. Would you like to come up, sir?
Yeah, the variance that we requested does not affect the George property. It is 5 feet away, as indicated in our request. The variance we are asking for is between the 7906 and 7910 Pinecrest Lane, which is Bo and Cindy Welch, and Cindy has already come aboard here and discussed this with you. That's the only variance we're asking for. It will not affect the George property. Also, that area of the property is the highest part of my lot line for water. As Mr. Woodall had mentioned, I cannot put a shed at the lowest part of the property because of all the water that comes down. That is the highest portion, and that's where I'd like to place the shed.
So this is proposed to be 6 inches from the east property line.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes. Which is the property line between our house and Welch.
So
Mr.
we
Mr.
visited this in December. Correct me if I'm wrong, you have a concrete pad there, which at the time you were proposing to put a 10-foot by 10-foot shed in that location,
Right,
correct?
which would be a variance on 2 properties. And I have adjusted that to be just a variance on the 7910 Pinecrest Lane property.
So it was a variance, when you came to us before, a variance which would affect 7221.
Correct,
Now you've adjusted it so it's over 5 feet away from them.
correct, yes,
Just asking for a variance with 7910, who has no problem with it.
absolutely. And we've had surveyors out, and they've located all the markers on the property, and we're gonna put strings up based on that and set it up as indicated.
And I don't remember, but how high was the front of the building going to be off the ground if you moved it to 5 foot off of that side?
On one side, it's going to be about 6 inches off the ground. On the other side, it's 18 inches to 24 inches, depending on how the slope works out. I haven't even tried to set that up yet, but because the slope is very steep in my backyard, like I say, one side I could be on the ground, on the other side I could be, 10 feet down the line, I could be 18 inches off the ground.
On the side you want to go 6 inches on right now, though.
The side,
If you was to move it over 5 feet.
I'm gonna come 6 inches, and I'd like to make the concrete just a couple inches above the ground level, 6 inches in, and on the opposite side, which would be 10 feet, it'd be about 18 inches tall.
Okay. What I'm asking, though, if you was to move it over 5 feet, how far would that far corner, it's going to be 18 inches off the ground?
No, if I moved it over 5 feet, I would have to cut one of our 50 or 60-foot trees, and then it might be 3 feet or 4 feet, because again, my ground, that's the highest portion, and it slopes down a great deal. So it starts getting steeper as we go down. That's why, to be honest with you, I felt that putting it in the very corner would give me the best benefit, because of, there's less slope at that very top corner.
I remember when we dealt with this in December, because I had been to the property then, and I've been to the property since, within the last 2 weeks to review this. And to me personally, to me, this seems like a matter of convenience rather than hardship and true need for a place to put the shed. We discussed this in December as well, that there's the appearance that there's other places on the back property that the shed might go, although they may be inconvenienced or not as convenient for you. It seemed, as I recall, that we discussed that to some level of detail. So having said that, I don't have any further comments about it. You might ask him.
Are we still trying to put the shed on the same pad that you had poured previously?
No.
Did you take that down?
No, I didn't take that down. I'm using it for something else right now.
Okay, so you poured another pad.
I'm going to, I haven't done nothing yet. I'm going to put another pad next to it, and I'm gonna use 5 feet of the old pad and 10 feet of the new pad to build a shed there.
He's moved it into compliance with the neighbor who had objection,
Away from the one that.
away from the one who had objection. That's the change.
Okay.
But it's still within 6
6
inches.
inches of the line.
But
these
he's
property
here
lines.
asking for a variance.
Yeah.
That's what he's asking for, is a variance to,
And
but
6 inches is the property owner that.
the
agrees
property
to-
owner's here and said they were fine with it.
The only issues I have with that is that that's the current property owner. If the property sells the next property owner may not be so agreeable to it. And from my opinion, every time we grant a variance, we do weaken the code somewhat. That's all I've got right there.
Anybody else? You have a motion?
Make a motion to deny the variance.
Have a second? Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Variance denied. Make a motion to adjourn. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Adjourn. Thank y'all very much.